Well, let's get to some news now. We are days away from a government shutdown in the United States, and this is frankly the only leverage that Republicans have right now. I mean, this is all about one thing as leverage. Stop spending money in Ukraine and stop funding the southern border invasion, which is being funneled and funded by you, the taxpayers. The United States government, as we've shown you repeatedly here on this show, is funding and supporting the invasion of our southern border, and it's being done by the Biden administration with the direction of the Department of Homeland Security. That's exactly what's happening. So what happens if they run out of money? Oh, well, I don't know. We're about to find out. This is all about to come to a head, though, in the next few days, because Biden held an emergency meeting today, this afternoon, calling Schumer and Mike Johnson, called the party leaders to the White House, begging them to get on the same page, trying to get them to push something forward so we don't have a government shutdown this week. He's running for president, after all. It's not a good look right now, as we're seeing high inflation numbers once again. Will the Fed have to increase interest rates rather than cut them, which is conventional wisdom says they're going to be cutting these interest rates. Not so fast. And I love how the Washington Post, just take a look at this afternoon. This is how the Washington Post is covering this. Biden convenes congressional leaders as federal shutdown deadline nears. And right in the first line there, we'll also focus on funding for Ukraine. So that's the main, remember, this is the main focus of this. This is what they really care about. So just read the very first 2 words here. With Ukraine running low on munitions. That's how they start off a U.S. government shutdown discussion is about Ukraine.
They don't care about you.
They do not care at all. And the Washington Post, of course, is just the mouthpiece for all of this at the Pentagon. If a portion of federal finances lapse just past midnight on Saturday, vital services at the Department of Transportation would go offline. That means buses for poor people, right? Food stamp programs could quickly run low on funding. Housing assistance for millions of families would fall into jeopardy because we care so much about the American people. We're really worried about the homeless problem in the United States and buses for people who don't have cars. They don't give a shit, really. I love the Washington Post. They're just pretending here. And then right away, slips down in here, and the defense and State Departments will also expire. But in Ukraine, the situation is far more dire. Lawmakers and national security officials say. So it's more dire than the United States. Commanders there have already been ordering fighters to ration munitions in the nation's fight against Russia's 2-year-old invasion. Without U.S. defense assistance, experts say Russia will, of course, win. That's the bottom line. They will win this war.
Well, at least we're paying the pensions of those commanders, so they can, kind of afford the.
Right. David is correct. We have absolutely seen documentation showing that we are in our budgets covering the pensions and some of the state funds for Ukrainian citizens.
Yes.
And Ukrainian military. This is true.
Their government office. Yeah, exactly. And Putin's forces already captured the former Ukrainian stronghold of Avdiivka earlier this month, a battle in which, I love this, the Washington Post says this, without any evidence, but they just throw this sentence in here. They say, Russia beat at the Battle of Avdiivka earlier this month, a battle in which a lack of U.S.-provided arms proved decisive, officials say.
Please.
Officials say.
I mean, they're just banking on the fact that you don't know any better. The fact that they have an untrained military, that most of their trained military is dead. They're literally taking people with mental disabilities. We saw a video last week of a boy with Down syndrome, has no business on the battlefield. And they've never had good weapons. They've never been set up to win this war for people who don't want to be a part of Ukraine. They're just banking on the fact that you will swallow that because you don't know any better.
Yeah.
Did I hear you say that correctly? That the article stated that that Ukraine lost that Avdiivka with the help of U.S. weapons?
Because we lacked it. Is that what they said? Right?
They said because they didn't have them. They didn't have enough of them. It was decisive. That's why they lost that battle. That's what they said. So,
and I was just going to say that that's the official way to say some people say, like we're always heard on the news. Some people say that, and officials say that. I mean,
who are these people?
You don't know any better because you're swallowing our bullshit.
Right. So was it Victoria Nuland who said officials say? Can you name? Why don't you name who that person is? Well, are they trying to keep it secret? Like they surely would want their name out there and associated with this.
Because they just want to write that.
Yeah.
You don't need to have anybody then.
How many of you are really concerned about a U.S. government shutdown? Let me know in the chat. I'd love to see this. Let me know on Rumble and on YouTube. So, Virginia Congressman Bob Good said this morning that this is the only leverage that Republicans have right now, and they have to be willing to say no to these Democratic demands on the southern border and for the funneling of money into Ukraine. Watch.
Well, a government shutdown is not ideal, but it's not the worst thing. It would be worse to exacerbate the problem, to further increase our debt and our spending, to make our fiscal situation, which is unprecedented as it is, as you know, to continue to fund a government that's facilitating the border invasion. Why would we give Biden and Mayorkas billions and billions of dollars to keep doing this to the American people? The only leverage we have when we have one house of one branch is to be willing to say no.
Be willing to say no. That seems pretty reasonable, right? Right? Stop funding Ukraine. Stop funding a border invasion of the United States. Well, Ukraine flag people on Twitter or X were not happy with his position at all. Just so funny to see all of the Ukraine flags. And so he says, that's extremist drivel, what he just said there. That's extremist. It's extremist to not want to fund Ukraine. It's extremist to not want to make sure our borders are secure. You're an extremist. Here's another one. Tej Dilo, also a Ukraine flag in there, and a Canadian flag. Wow, just to show that we can govern or get things done no matter how harmful to the American people. So what he's saying, like, response, yeah, this is going to be harmful to the American people.
Okay, but I would like to ask you, Tej Dilo, do you care that the American people are being harmed by funding a war continuously? Or do you care that the Ukrainian people are being decimated and dying out? Do you care about that? I'm just wondering, like, where do we decide to care? Is it like a chip on a board where we can only care about certain things?
Yeah, you're only allowed to care about certain things at a time. You can't. You can't talk about that right now. Diane in Ohio, here's one of my favorites. Not only does she have a Ukraine flag in there, she also has an Israeli flag in there. And she says, my guess is that's exactly what your constituents would expect from you. Your party seems to be cheering for the country to fail and for the American people to suffer because you think it helps you politically. Something is very wrong with that. So
again, Diane in Ohio, what do you get from funding Ukraine? What do you get as an American in Ohio that you're really caring about?
Well, if she's anything like the other, like Mike Rogers in Ohio, maybe she's near Dayton, Ohio, Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, so she gets, maybe she gets defense money in some capacity. Who knows, right? Who knows what her motivations are for making sure that the defense contractors are getting their billions of dollars and that more people are dying, more innocent people are dying. But she also has an Israeli flag in there, so you know where her sentiments are. Military-industrial complex is what Diane loves, clearly, from her comments there. But yeah, and by the way, the American people will suffer
if we don't fund Ukraine.
Do you guys feel like you're going to suffer if we stop funding Ukraine? Like, do you think that your lives will suffer? Like, your kids will come home from school and dad's just sitting there with like a 6-pack of beer on his belly. Dad lost his job. Why'd dad lose his job? Because Zelensky didn't get billions more money. Mm-hmm. Why is dad upset?
Well, okay, let's play this exercise out, right? Okay. We were lied to about Middle Eastern wars, weapons of mass destruction for years and years. We all maybe championing that on cable news. 90% of cable news pundits were pro-war. We believed it, right? Incubators, babies, all of that stuff. And then when that narrative slowly broke down and we all went back to our lives and we stopped that, how did that affect us? Not very much, I would say. We just sort of let that narrative dissolve, right?
Well, actually, what happened was, then, of course, we actually had an economy that started booming in the United States, right? That actually started happening in the United States.
Right.
So, I don't know, maybe there was some good things that happened in the United States.
Right. And so what should have happened is for us to say, that war was a lie. Maybe I won't fall for that again.
Yeah.
So I'm just wondering why that lesson was not learned, these people with Ukrainian flags in their bio.
Well, and the border invasion is absolutely, to me, one of the most important issue in the United States right now, and what it's doing to our economy, what it's doing to what it matters for the 2024 election. I think this is the most important topic. You don't hear the Biden administration. The Biden administration right now is literally blaming Republicans for the sieve at the southern border. On day one, President Biden signed an executive order to undo, of course, what President Trump had put in place. So this is laughable. And by the way, they're in power. So how is it Trump's fault still? I love that they still blame him 3 years later or whatever.
Oh, yeah, they reversed what Trump had done, which was solving the problem, which was that people could get amnesty in Mexico because you're supposed to take it in the first, or not amnesty, but
asylum.
What's asylum in the nearest free country that you come upon, which would be Mexico. And then Biden reversed it, but then said they couldn't get something like that passed when it was already passed. So it's like, it's a complete lie.
Yeah. Yeah. So the U.S. southern border, of course, is, to my mind, the most important issue in the United States, and the child trafficking that's happening. But all of this is tied to the U.S. economy and what this is going to mean for voting, of course, in the 2024 election. So you think, wow, Trump's probably going to walk away with his victory like on a landslide. Not so fast. When you see the tens of millions of illegal immigrants that are being ferried around the United States and placed purposefully in different cities to affect the outcome of this upcoming election. I really hope you enjoyed watching this video. You know, YouTube thinks that you'll actually like this next video right here. It's personalized based on your own viewing habits. So if you watch the video, please leave a comment. Let us know what you think about it. And we will see you next time, everyone.